Now, I love small parcels and get to work with clients on small parcels, and I want to bring those concepts back to you. So we already talked about a 15 acre, there's a 10 acre, whichever one you see first. We have 2 of these coming. I had 2 10-acre parcels and a 15-acre parcel from last week, and I think I'm missing one in there that was closer to 10 acres too. So a lot of small parcels. That's typical of Michigan. And over here in the western part of Wisconsin and into Minnesota, getting a lot of 80 to 160 acre parcels on average, some a lot larger, but typically not real micro small ones. We'll get an occasional 30-some acre around here, but usually they're a lot larger. And it's really indicative of all the rolling hills around here. It's just hard to break up parcels and access them. Not a lot of roads in some portions. For example, if you keep turning left around our neighborhood around here, it ends up being a 12, 13-mile loop going all the way around with no roads in between. There's some major large parcels that aren't fragmented or broke up, steep hills, ravines, and that makes for big whitetails. But that doesn't mean that you can't have good whitetail hunting on smaller parcels. And this was a really nice couple clients I went out to, a husband and wife, last week, and I was in February a couple weeks ago, and really enjoyed the day with them. But they have a lot they can do. For right now, they had a small food plot back by the woods. It wasn't screened from the house. They have all completely open timber. There's some really unruly neighbors on the east side, with north being up on the top up here. And what's interesting, they're in their 70s. They've literally called the cops on each other. There's a lot of fighting that goes on. They're outside yelling at each other almost every day. And they're very nosy neighbors too. If anything happens on my client properties, they walk right over. Their garage actually looks like, by using HuntWise and also some pins that are there for surveying, it looks like their garage is built, which they've built since my landowners have been there, but they built that garage, it looks like 10 feet over the line, something like that, or around the time they've been there. So kind of an intrusion in all ways, and house is spelled with an E. Something like that. Dylan, you normally, I know.
Having all over you today.
Yeah, Dylan normally catches all those, like numerous ones, a film shoot. But anyways, they have a pond that's right here. So they're outside in this pond. They're outside their houses and pole building garage, just making noise every day and being real intrusive. So that creates opportunity, because that's an absolute that, you know, deer aren't coming from, they're not going to, and deer are expecting some noise there. So pretty cool situation. Open woods up here. Now, just to back up a little bit, open woods here behind the neighbors. All this is open woods. There's a creek system, a ditch drainage going through it. Pretty flat land over a south thumb area, if that makes sense, of Michigan. And then thick woods here with a house. You know, 3 houses. My client property's here with a house and some buildings. Then some woods, and then some ag field. And it gets thicker as you get closer to the ag fields. That creates opportunity here because it holds a lot of does and fawns closer to the ag. And then as you get further back, there's opportunity to hold bucks. And so that perfect distance where you're about 300-400 yards back from that ag field, and you can hold a lot of deer. And in fact, that's where a lot of their deer come from. So I really like them to have a food plot. Having that food plot closer is an absolute too. The deer aren't typically going to come from the house or yard area to hit that food. There's open ag across the road. Right now it's all open from border to border here, 110 yards wide, 110 by a quarter mile deep, 110 yards by a quarter mile deep. So 110 by 440, all open right here. And what's nice about that is right off the bat, it gives them about half of the yard, or 55 yards wide. They can plant switchgrass in here. I don't want deer bedding in there, but I want them to be able to access to deer hunt through there. I want the deer to feel comfortable, not just running through the yard when they cross from the ag across the road. I want them to slow down, make good decisions. That means when deer are going slow to a road, they tend to not run out in front of cars because they're thinking, I believe anyways, as opposed to them just running through open field or woods, just running across because they're getting chased. If they have that amount of cover, to me it slows them down. It makes sense. They slow down, they stand on the road, they make a good decision, they don't get hit on the road. So I really like that switchgrass for absorbing deer, slowing them down, and also so my clients can actually come out of their backyard and actually transfer into the woods and hunt. Right now they're hunting one person at a time, and that's it, either the husband or the wife. I want to see them both hunting together in different stand locations if they'd like. This hard red edge right here, they don't mind the wall. They don't have a lot of space for food plot. They want an actual wall next to the neighbors so the neighbors can't see through. That also helps them. And this is another client that recommended miscanthus grass on. They can plant 3 to 4 rows wide, 2 to 3 foot spacing, And they'll have a very, very effective hard wall that you can't see through. My clients were okay with looking at that wall outside their house. I don't want to look at that, a green wall. I want things to be a little bit more natural around here and screened, so I'd rather have conifers, switchgrass, shrubs, you know, making a more staggered wall that's more wildlife friendly. But in this case, they don't want to take up a lot of space. They have a narrow width to work with, and miscanthus grass will fill the bill. Plus, in this area, they'll get good growth. By year 4 or 5, it's going to be 10, 12 feet tall and very, very thick. So that's not a bad thing for them, but very tight spacing, 2 to 3 foot wide, and then apart, and then staggered, and then 3 to 4 rows. They're going to do that right in front of their neighbors. They don't mind their neighbors looking out a wall. In fact, they might do that down their border a little bit too, so the neighbors can't see them in their yard and their house and come over and bother them at any time. They don't want them over there. And so now that my clients, they could literally walk through the switchgrass and go right up the line, literally walking right on the edge of their land behind the switchgrass to get to stands. So that'll help them get around the food plot, and it'll help them get in and out. And those deer will get used to that noise around that food plot area. Noise coming from the house. The second that noise transfers into the woods or into that food plot, they're gone. So it sets up a really nice situation where deer will come into that. They can continue through the switchgrass, go out into the ag like they are right now, but instead of running, get hit in the road, they'll do it at more of a slow pace, and that's a good thing too. What that creates is stand location here, not crossing the ditch. There's a good ditch there that's pretty deep, pretty steep to cross. There's a crossing right here for the neighbor and the landowner to use. Good spot for a stand here, 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 and here. Water hole up here. You know, there's a ditch. It's all dry back here. So perfect opportunity for cruising ditch stand. And then these stands, when you get back into the woods a little bit more, these are more, you talk about that assemblage of stands. You have to have morning stands and evening stands. That's a sign of a good parcel design, but there's 3 stands back here for morning. And then there's 3 stands or blinds or 4 back here for evening. And then I like this one right here as more of a cruising stand, maybe even this one, because they can shoot to this deer trail that's already natural following the ditch, comes out of the thick cover, goes back and forth. So they can shoot to that from this stand or that stand, back in the cover a little bit, but not so far back in the cover that they're spooking deer bedded on the neighbors or their land. Right now, very open woods. These people are nature lovers. What's that mean with nature lovers? They don't want to cut trees because they want more wildlife. Kind of funny thing, you know, again, hunters are the ones doing and creating the conservation for people and actually attracting wildlife because they're going to cut their timber now. So they're cutting big, open, giant hardwoods. They're leaving an appreciable amount of giant old oaks. They like having those. They're really pretty, beautiful trees. They're some of the biggest trees I've seen recently in the last couple of years. But they're going to get a logger out there. They've wanted to log already. They're going to take a percentage of their trees down, severely open up the canopy. There's thick woods over here on the neighbors, and then thick brush, upland cover over here. So now they're going to make an open invitation for deer to come on their property. They're giving them a trail to do so with that red line. Matches those, that line comes down to here, goes to food. Right here, it also goes to right here. So they'll be able to sit into an intermediate stand right here for morning or evening. They can slip right around. They can even go out to the road and go around if they want, but they can get around any deer that are here. They can also tap into a blind right behind the barn. Deer have no clue that they're coming in. They'll have switchgrass wrapped around that entire thing, and then switchgrass on this side, and then on this side it's the miscanthus grass. Bottom line is they can get into a blind right there, watch the whole food plot. It'll be about 1.25 acres. And then they can sneak into this stand, watch deer coming in and out in the morning and evening. Same with this one. And then they have these 3 dedicated morning stands back here. So another blind right here. I like this too, where they can come in, they get right at the corner, they can blow their scent back at the neighbor's house. Deer trail that would come right through here, through the property. They're on the other side of that. They keep it mowed, so they're not leaving much scent getting in and out, so they can actually walk from the yard, go to a stand right here. Watch that whole food plot so they can hunt with winds going this way. They can hunt this one with winds going this way. And then they can hunt over here. Winds coming here right back to the neighbors. This one's winds this way. Then wind blowing out to the open. This one goes up. So you can kind of see that they have stand locations for every wind direction. And this becomes a big tangled mess in here, an extension of this thick cover. And with this open land and these loud, obnoxious neighbors down here calling the cops to each other. And my clients actually had the cops show up at their house at one time. basically a SWAT team surrounding the house because they thought there was some domestic violence going on, and it ended up being the neighbors calling. They had the address wrong, so they went over there and took care of matters after that. But bottom line is a lot of loud noise, commotion, and open hardwoods, which means that there's going to be some good bucks that'll transfer out my neighbors. The food plot will be a great addition because they don't necessarily have to spook deer off that food plot unless they shoot them. They're going to have to deal with a hard wall of miscanthus looking out at, but they said they're okay with that. Big wall looking right back. I don't want to look at that, but at the same time, it's a really good fit for hiding food plots in the right situation. You don't need a lot of space. Better than waiting for conifers 10, 12, 14 years to fill in and having to replant and them taking up a lot more space with what that would have been precious food plot space in this case. So big things will happen. They already shoot a nice buck or two a year by sitting on this land. They're hunting the entire season one at a time. They have targets that they're after. They've shot 3-year-old bucks. They're after a 4-year-old. So this is an area that has decent bucks, and by taking an area with decent bucks and making some major habitat changes, adding food, changing how they hunt, setting up morning and evening stands, giving them the ability to have 2 stand locations. For example, opening day of gun, someone could sit right here, someone could sit on the other side of the woods. They're 250, 300 yards apart. They know where each other's sitting, so they can have some space and hunt in those locations and really separate themselves even from corner to corner, corner to corner, really get out on the property and enjoy some hunts together now too. So it's fun working with this couple, and 10 acres doesn't mean that there's not a lot you can do to it. And again, we always talk about it takes less time to walk the woods sometimes, depending on how much we're talking. Sometimes on an 80-acre parcel that's open hardwoods with a side-by-side, you can be through it pretty quick and see almost every square inch of the property. Where walking a property like this can take still a little bit of time. We still discuss the plan about the same amount of time. I tell people it takes up the same amount of space on the tablet to draw. So a lot of times you're packing a lot more features. We have the same discussion time. So yeah, it cuts a day by our day or two, but a day's a day, and it still ends up being a 8-hour day at least that I've experienced. Dylan, you seem to get by a little bit faster, but even then it's probably a 7-hour day.
Yeah, yeah.
So. But hope you like this. I hope you like some of these. We like making these drawings this time of year because people are focusing on what you can do on your property, and whether it's the 15-acre parcel and some of the things we talked about there. And even here, we're taking that food plot here, which gives them a lot of depth going back. That's really important to have that depth so you can actually have an assemblage of morning and evening. If you stuck that food plot right here, now all the deer bed off to your neighbors and move around during the daylight on your neighbors. Stick that food plot towards the front of the property or one side, which this would be the best. And now you create that depth too. And I hope a lot of these concepts are something that you can take back to your land. And oh, by the way, wearing a new furnace hoodie there. It's their new color too. I think they call it Terra or Earth. It's brown, dark brown. But the link is in the description. That comes out for sale on the 21st of February. So that's coming up really quick. Might already be going on by the time you see this. And oh, by the way, we have our food plot company out here. It should be in the next few days from when we're filming this on the 13th. So new website, WHS Seed Blends, that's tied into the mother site, basically. We have 13 seed blends coming out, and we'll be ready to ship on or before March 8th. We already have a commitment from that. We have a full-time individual coming to help us out with that, part-timers in the summer. It's a big operation, and we can't deliver a premium seed blend based on 30 years of experience in research, trial, success, and failure of my own. Developing my own blends. We're putting a lot of those strategies back into those blends. And I can't wait to release those to you. I've handpicked every seed, now we'll do every year. We're always chasing perfection in our blends, I tell people, which is impossible to do so. And that's why you'll see our seed blends change from year to year, because we're always working on trying to find the next great blend that we can blend certain seeds together, a little bit higher percentage or lower. We'll bring that to you. So make sure you always check the link in the description. We have all kinds of good stuff in there, including the link to our podcast. We're gonna be shooting our 9th podcast here in a couple hours and a 10th one tomorrow to make sure we get those out.